a global community around this. I write less and less and do much more of all over the world. We never got to South America. There's a whole new generation of people.
Hey Sam, how are you doing?
I'm good. Yeah, it just feels like such a long time ago. I can't even remember what I would have said at that time. And
It's good, it's good. Whatever we've done, it's in the past. So we're just here to talk about you, to talk about Better Letters, Black, uh, Better Letters magazine. And yeah, and in general, yeah, check this. So guys, like this is the first, what is it
that's
called?
that's very rare now. Issue one.
Yeah, issue one is the time that we recorded a podcast with Sam. But you know my life and me not being able to catch up with everything that I'm doing. Here we are doing episode two, which is first for you, but yeah, I guess the people are used to this already, so I hope it's fine. So yeah, today we're gonna speak basically mostly about lettering and sign painting. Sam, let's just start. Can you tell me how you first become interested in sign painting?
Yeah. So around 2006, I was living in London. I'm from London, and I noticed one of these old painted signs up on a brick wall. They're called ghost signs, and they were painted end of the 1900s, first half of the 20th century, and they have this faded appearance on the brickwork. And I was just curious and started investigating them. And through that, quite quickly discovered that even though it's a smaller industry than it once was, there's still very much a thriving sign painting scene. And that became even more vibrant following the release of the Sign Painters film. And I think the fact that it's more connected globally now, I think social media and things like that have really helped to create a global community around this trade.
So how is it there is a global community which is bigger, but sign painters are less, if I understood correctly?
Oh, sorry. Okay, so when I say sign painters are less, so from when these were painted, these really old ones, there were hundreds of sign painters. You got that as well. Great. That there were hundreds of sign painters in just London. And now I don't know. It's hard to say how many there would be in London, but yeah, what I mean by it's smaller, it's smaller than it was, say, let's say in the 1930s, for example. 100, just under 100 years ago. But it's still there, and in the last 10, 15 years, it's had a real resurgence. More and more people becoming interested in it, wanting to learn how to do it, and earning their living from it.
For people who don't know, including me, where is the origin of sign painting? Because a few days ago I was trying to explain a friend what is sign painting because I'm from Bulgaria and I think we never had really sign painting in our culture. So is this something that's Western? Is it based or started in England or America? Like, what's the origins of sign painting?
Well, I mean, it depends where you count from, because obviously people have been painting things on walls from the days of cave people, and so there's prehistoric paint on walls all over the world. The oldest I've come across is they found these sign kits in South Africa that have been dated to 100,000 years old. So you could say that that there's something innate in people that we want to make our mark on the wall. Then fast forward 98,000 years, and you have at the ruins of Pompeii in Italy the remains of, it's a mixture. There's commercial advertising on those walls, painted sometimes with lettering, sometimes just pictorials, political slogans, and if you read Edward Katich and his work, he shows that even the carved inscriptions would originally have been painted with a broad brush. So you could say that the start of it is there. What happens in the Middle Ages is a bit mysterious. We don't really know. And then certainly the 18th century, there's lots of records of work being done in the 18th century. And, at that time, most people couldn't read. And so typically it was very much sign painting. It was something that artists did. It was pictorial based. And then as literacy increased, lettering began to be introduced more and more into the sign. So, that's kind of, I suppose, the British tradition, and then that in itself moved over and was part of the American tradition. But when I look at painted work, I find it all over the world. The old signs seem to exist wherever you go in the world, and these days vinyl and digital technology and so on is taking over. But most places in the world have some tradition of painted signs. Whether it's still present in the street and on the walls is a different matter. But I think it's an international phenomenon, and probably the most documented and researched, yes, are probably in the UK and the US.
I see. In this case, what drew you to sign painting as a creative outlet?
Yeah, I mean, I should say I'm not a sign painter, so this is the thing that people always find curious. And I've tried it, I've taken workshops, and more to expose myself to the practice of it and to understand how difficult it is, and what goes into the type of work, the higher end work that people are producing. So I've always been fascinated by it, in awe of the people that do it, and have, I guess, taken it upon myself in some respects to be something of a champion, to bang the drum for the trade, and to try and get more recognition for this kind of work, and to encourage customers to seek out hand done work rather than the digitally reproduced stuff on vinyl. So that's kind of my driving force, I guess, in a sense, is how can we elevate the whole trade and make it more recognized and respected around the world.
So in a way, you're kind of similar to me and what I'm doing with Calligraphy Masters.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's pretty cool. Okay, but in this case, are you able to do lettering or calligraphy, or you're just
No, I don't practice. So I don't have my notebook here, but if you looked at how I write, it's poor, and I would never. Well, I mean, people can commission a sign from me, but I will always pass that on to somebody else. I wouldn't buy work from me, Sam Roberts. My role is bringing work to other people, and getting this kind of work in front of new audiences, and so on. And I think things like Instagram and so on have really helped to raise the profile of the trade. But I still think there's a place there for people like myself, like yourself, to just be banging the drum and opening up new audiences and building awareness.
Who did create those two signs behind you?
Okay, so over this shoulder, this is by Oscar Noman. He is based in Barcelona, and he did this. Well, we did a little exchange. I seem to remember. I think I did him a favor, and he painted this for me. And it's got elements of the Filipiado Porteño decorative style from Buenos Aires in Argentina. So he spent a lot of time in South America and learned from some of the painters there. So that was a piece by Oscar Noman. And then this one is by James Cooper, often referred to as Cooper or Coops. And his firm was in Bristol called Dapper Signs. Sadly, this year he died in August this year. So there's I've written a number of tributes, and this is, well, it's interesting. He was suffering in hospital earlier this year, and myself and others did a whole load of fundraising for his family. And I did a raffle where this was the prize, and a guy called Gaston won it in France. So I sent it to him, and then after Cooper died, we were in touch, me and Gaston, and he said, "Look, I think you should have this. It's, it's more personal to you, and it's your magazine and so on. So he sent it back to me. So now I owe him a favor. But yeah, so that's by Cooper. And the next issue of the magazine is going to have his step-by-step guide of how he painted this. So this is his like fake neon. So, the whole technique he's done to make signs look like they're neon. And there's a little how-to in the next issue of the magazine.
Okay, so let's speak about the magazine itself. BLAG magazine. So I guess it stands for Better Letters magazine, right?
More or less, yeah. Better Letters Mag was kind of where the name came from. But, BLAG has meanings as well as a word. And, in the UK, if you talk about a BLAG, normally you refer to, blagging your way into a nightclub. So say, they say, oh no, we're full, or it's guest list only, or something like that. But you manage to, use your charm and so on to get the bouncers to let you in. So, blagging it into a nightclub, or kind of blagging it, just sort of making it up as you go along is another meaning. But then in the US, the more common meaning seems to be a sales pitch. So if somebody is, you can imagine at a market stall, somebody's trying to sell things there. So their BLAG is the sales pitch that they make as they're selling things. And I thought that was actually quite a fitting term for a magazine about signs, because signs are kind of like little BLAGs. They're there to catch your attention and sell you whatever is behind the sign. So yeah, it kind of worked on a number of levels. It's nice and short, and the guys, Harry and the team at Utile, who do all the design, they did the logo type, and you can see it's from a this is in issue 3. It's an old type specimen, woodblock type specimen. And so that's the original B that was from that. And then they did a whole load of kind of modifications and then developed the logo type from that. And so I'm now on to issue 3 came out in June, and issue 4, I've just been this week, in fact, quite timely that you called this week. I've just been to see the sheets coming off the presses for issue 4. And that will be bound up and start shipping out to subscribers early next month.
So yeah, I was about to ask where and how do people buy the magazine, and how much does it cost? You just mentioned subscribers, so is it like
Yeah.
you subscribe, you cannot buy just one, or?
What happens is it goes exclusively to people who are paid subscribers, members, however you want to describe it. It goes to them first. And then when normally there's a few left over by the time the next one comes out, and then I put them on general sale. So an annual membership is $119 US, and that includes the magazine, member only emails. I have a whole load of stuff on the website that is members only, including the digital back issues. So for example, these first two issues, they're not available anymore. They're all out of stock. But for members, they can go onto the website and read them as, that like those services where you can flip through the pages. So it's like that effectively. And then discounts. I have an events program, so members get discounted tickets. So it's more than just the physical magazine that people get. And there's a monthly plan as well. And I think I've set up for your listeners a special code that they can get an introductory offer.
Awesome. I will put this code in the description, guys, so you can check it right now. I don't know it. Yeah, I mean, you can say it if you want. So maybe there are people who are just listening and not watching.
Listeners to Calligraphy Masters can get $20 off their first year, and that's using the link, which is just the website bl.ag/cm20. So it's the main website for BLAG, which is easy to remember, is just bl.ag. It kind of spells the word, and then a slash, and then cm for Calligraphy Masters, and 20 for the $20 off. So yeah, people can take that link, and what that will do, they'll get sent issue 3 straight away. and then as soon as it's published, issue 4 as well.
This is like I just realized when we recorded the first episode, I see like issue 1 2022. So
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, so this was, yeah, so then later that year this one came out, and then yeah, then this is from this year. The other thing that I'm doing, which is cool, so there's no advertising in the magazine, so every single page is all about sign painting, and there's no adverts. There's some sponsors, which is great, and they have their logos and things featured on the inside back cover, as you can see here. But it means that the whole thing is advertising free, and so it's all funded by subscribers, members. And what I've done, these first issues were 64 pages, but for the issue 4, it's going to be even bigger. It's going to have 80 pages in, and again, completely free of advertising. So that's something I feel quite passionate about, is keeping it free of advertising. It does mean that the price is more expensive than a regular magazine, but I think it creates a certain aesthetic experience that you get from flicking through and not being interrupted by advertising. And I don't want to spend my whole time trying to sell adverts. I want to be out there finding all the cool sign painting stories that are going on around the world.
you said like most of the issues go to subscribers, and then there are some which you are selling. So how much does one go for? I guess it's kind of a limited edition magazine actually.
Yeah, each one sells out, and at the moment I don't have any plans to reprint them. So if somebody buys one just on its own, it's £20. So what's that? That's kind of probably about 24 or 25 US dollars plus shipping. Um, so it normally works out a bit over 30 US for a single issue if people are buying that online.
Twice a year, like 2 issues
Yep.
per year.
Yep. So I do a summer and a winter issue, and they come out more or less in June and December each year. And in fact, I'm quite happy with that frequency. It's a lot of work goes into it in terms of finding the stories, researching them, commissioning people to write them, chasing people. You have to have more than one deadline. You have to, okay, get it in by this date, and then okay, I can give you another week, and eventually we get there every time. And then there's image rights clearance. The whole thing is done in a professional way, and we've got a really good team of designers that work on it. A woman called Jenna in the US who does all the copy editing, so she proofreads everything. So I obviously check stuff, but then she comes in and does the real quality control. And then and then we've got a brilliant printer here actually in Spain. I live just outside Barcelona, so between where I am and Barcelona, there's an amazing printer, and they do very high-end fine art. Well, they do everything from brochures all the way to the big fine art books, and the quality of their work is really nice.
Who is this magazine for?
Who's it for? I would say it's predominantly for sign painters or people that are interested in sign painting. But the people who sign up, most of them do some sign painting either professionally or in a hobby type capacity. But then there's a good swathe of people that are from more straightforward graphic design backgrounds. There are calligraphers, type designers, fine artists, graffiti people. So it's anybody that is either involved or interested in sign painting, or is in something that is tangential or parallel to it. So anybody that's interested in letters, graphic design, will find stuff of interest in the magazine. And it's very, very international. So I think something that is perhaps has been a weakness of some of these publications in the past is that they have been very, very focused on USA, UK, Australia, let's say, Canada as well. But each issue of my magazine normally has 14, 15, maybe 16 different countries featured featured in some way or another. And for the next issue that's coming, I'm going to have my first feature that is based on work coming out of Ghana in West Africa, which I think then means that magazine is going to have work from every single continent, which I'm quite excited by. So yeah, I'm trying to make it representative of not just the places that we talked about earlier that have got this well-documented history and tradition of sign painting, to make sure that it is introducing people to other traditions and other genres and types of work that you can find around the world.
Can people request to be featured, or is it you choosing everything? Like, how does it work to put together everything in the magazine?
Yeah, so I always have some ideas of things that I want to see, and I follow lots of people on Instagram, and I'm involved in. I have lots of mailing list subscriptions, and when I see things that look interesting to me, then I'm quite proactive, reaching out to people to say, could we do something for the magazine? Would you like to write something, or could I interview you? But then, absolutely, for me, it's always really exciting when somebody says, "Hey, what about putting this in the magazine?" And so that is always open, and I'm really happy to feature people's work. I think that that it's a platform that that's there for everyone, and I can't include everything. But I'm really happy to be approached and have people suggesting. So I have a submissions form on the website, but people can easily just email me as well and send their ideas. It has to be sign painting connected, really. I need to keep that focus. That it's ultra niche, and I appreciate that. But that's the focus that I want to keep is the sign painting. There's, sometimes it strays a little bit, but the real bulk of the magazine is all about sign painting.
Started last year, but Better Letters is on Instagram for a much longer time. So what made you to switch to this point? Like, what made you create the magazine?
So I had Ghost Signs was a project of mine running from, it still does run in a sense, from 2006. Then I went to Cambodia, where that's where I wrote my first book, Hand Painted Signs of Karachi. So we lived there for 2 years, and I did a book about the painted signs there, which were being lost. And when I got back from Cambodia in 2013, I wanted to do something, with my work, to be doing my work, to be in this area rather than just being a sort of hobby side thing. And at that point, I did a whole load of things, but the most significant was bringing the Sign Painters movie to London. And we had 3 nights where we sold out this venue to show the film. And a guy called Ash Bishop from the Brilliant Sign Company said, "Oh, you should get Mike Meyer, who's in the film, to come and teach a class after the film," which I did. And that was really popular. And Mike and I then, from 2014, well, until the pandemic, basically, there we go. That's we did over 200 different workshop events all over the world. We never got to South America, and we never got to Africa. We were on the cusp of going to South America. This is the show cards book, which are all the publicity pieces for those workshops. So I worked with Mike, and then obviously the pandemic came, and that was an end for those kinds of events. But what I did during that time, well, we had also just had this book published, which had been in the work before that, which is kind of like you've got them all, which was, this was something really to complement the workshop, because there's a lot of stuff in the workshop, which is, what are the brushes? What are the names of the brushes? What kinds of paint are you using? What do you use to thin the paint? How do you clean the brush? Which we would spend time on in the workshop, but we didn't really nobody really could remember it, and it took time away from practicing with the brush, which is what people really want to be doing. And so that was sort of the motivation behind this book, was like, let's put all of that stuff in the book, and then we can really just focus on the teaching. So that, and the Ghost Signs book that I did during the pandemic, and the show cards book that I did during the pandemic, sort of reignited my passion for research, for writing, and for publishing. And around the same time, a magazine called Signcraft had stopped being in hard copy. So they had taken the decision to go digital only. And I felt that was it. Well, it was a shame, and a lot of people were disappointed by that. And given the global interconnected nature of the world of sign painting, I thought, well, maybe there's an opportunity to produce a magazine that's just about sign painting, is in hard copy, but also has a digital component to it. And that was really it, and then I just went, okay, can I do it? Yes, I can. I got issue 1 done. I'll be honest, most of the stuff in this I wrote, because it was hard at that point to say to people, oh yeah, there's going to be a magazine, and you should be in it, and then, whatever. And so I ended up writing, probably 60, 70% of what's in there. But then that proves this is a thing and it can work. And each issue I write less and less, and do much more of the editing and commissioning the work that's going to go into it. And yeah, it's growing steadily over time, which is nice. Not it's not going exponential into the stratosphere, but no, for me it's nice to see it growing consistently. And every time a new issue comes out, there's kind of a new wave of excitement and enthusiasm for it. So I'm looking forward to seeing issue 4 start arriving. And it's really nice. I send the spreadsheet to the distributor, and then they start sending them all over the world. And one by one, people start tagging me on posts on Instagram and stories and so on. And everybody just describes it as their best post day or best mail day in the US. So it's, getting that kind of feedback from people really makes it all worthwhile.
You mentioned you did like 200 workshops with Mike. Is this correct?
I think that's what we said. Let's have a look. I did a little history. I don't think the thing is. Oh, okay. Here we go. In the 6.5 years, 178 events, 56
Wow.
cities, 200 countries over 4 continents. And then that's just the workshops. We also did talks, demonstrations, film screenings, and other stuff. But yeah, that was, you can see if you go into the back of that book, you've got here a kind of an event index, and it goes year by year, and you can see, I think 2000 and like 16, 17, 18, and 19 really, there were really a lot of events each year. And I always would set them up as like a tour. So we'd kind of go down the east coast of the US, or do 5 or 6 cities in Europe. And you can kind of see those in that book. The only thing is the earlier workshops, like the 2014 ones, we didn't really produce the publicity pieces for. So most of the work in this book is kind of from the end of 2014, early 2015 onwards.
This means you haven't been, you've been constantly like traveling for 6 years?
I didn't. No. Okay, so this is the thing. So I was running this out of London, and then for a little bit when we just arrived here in Spain in 2019. So I would be the one that would set these up in terms of, okay, this is where the class is going to be. I would always be working with somebody local there, so normally a sign painter, but not always. And then I would book all of the flights, all of the materials, the venue if we needed it. And then it would be Mike who would go to those places and do the teaching. There were some that I went to. I probably went to maybe 5 or 10% of them. Obviously all the ones in London, some of the ones in the US. Amsterdam. I went to Barcelona. But no, most of the time I was kind of like the control center, so doing all of the logistics, the marketing, promoting them, making sure that they was as close to sold out as possible. Most of them did sell out, but not always. And then uh, supporting Mike as he went from city to city teaching. So that was, that was kind of the thing. He wanted to travel and teach, and to be able to earn some money doing those two things that he loved. And I was the agent, in a way, like the manager. The Brian Epstein is is the role. So yeah, so I didn't visit all of those places. He did, but I didn't.
But that's still crazy. Like 6 years traveling so much. Like, I mean, this is pretty cool actually, but kind of crazy.
I mean, there were times where I think we maybe pushed it a bit too hard. It doing that kind of thing, teaching for 4 days non-stop is takes a lot of energy, especially after a long haul flight. And there were times we probably pushed it a bit too far. And I think by the end we found that balance between the intensity of the teaching and then having some rest and recuperation before going into the next class, because it would be teaching always across a weekend nearly, so teaching maybe 5, 6 consecutive weekends, but so trying to make sure that there was space in between for him to drink tea and wander around looking at old signs, and to have some time where he wasn't on stage performing for the students.
So you're not doing this anymore?
I'm not directly involved. So Mike he's teaching again, and he's just done a tour down the west coast of the US, and he's working with a guy called Joe. So they tend to get in touch. Sometimes they just want to run something by me or get a point of view on something. But my focus, I guess, with the pandemic and the sort of break that forced, and then this shift that I've made into the publishing side. Yeah, I just didn't want to go back to it. And this has been consistent throughout my whole life. I've always done things for 5, 6, 7 years, and then had a shift into something different. And for me, to really make the magazine work has required my full attention. Now I've got the process down for the magazine, and that's what's allowed me this year to add the online events into the program, build up my online shop where there's lots of sign painting books, and develop things that are kind of around the magazine rather than the magazine as the core product. The magazine is the core product, but last year it was really just, can I get a magazine out? Can I make this a real physical thing that people can get their hands on? And now I've understood the process of that, it's allowed me to take on some other aspects of it.
Wow. And is this the best book for sign painters? Like, I mean, if you're no, I don't know other books. I guess I've spoken with some friends like choose ones, and whoever I've spoken to, they've recommended always this book. But
Yeah.
I never been that deeply interested into sign painting in terms to search and see what's out there. I just know about Mike mostly. Of course, I follow some other sign painters, but to my knowledge,
Yeah.
when we speak about sign painters, it's just Mike.
I think if somebody, if someone's interested in trying out sign painting or kind of learning some of the basics, this book, Sign Painting, it's Sign Painting, a practical guide to tools, materials, and techniques. It starts with chapters on brushes, paint, tools that you're going to need to transfer designs onto walls. Then it moves into a whole load of stuff on what processes and techniques you're going to need to use, how you work with the brush, and then it finishes with a whole load of alphabet to inspire you. And it's got, everything is in there set out very clearly. There's a list of suppliers. So wherever you are in the world, if a lot of the materials are quite specialist to the trade. And so it's not always just a case of walking into your local art store. Sometimes you might need to order from the next country over or something. So we included all of that. But I would say, yeah, it's probably the most comprehensive contemporary book on the subject. There's old books, but the problem with the old ones, a lot of the technique stuff will be fine, but the tools and materials that they're talking about, you might find that they've changed their name or they're not available anymore. So this one does have everything for the modern day sign painter. So yeah, I mean, I'm obviously pitching our own book, but that was our objective. Our objective with the book was to create something that was really comprehensive and wouldn't need constant updating. So yeah, it's all there in I don't know what it is. How many? 100 and
Almost 200.
190. Yeah, 192 pages. So I would definitely recommend that.
So yeah, this ad was brought to you by Better Letters magazine. No, but I mean, like, look, I stand for it as well. Like, I usually wouldn't talk about stuff or support even if somebody wants to sponsor. If I don't believe in the product or if I don't like it, I won't speak about it. So
Yeah.
I don't know other books, but I know this for sure. It's recommended by a lot of people. So if you're interested in sign painting and consider starting it, definitely recommend this one by Better Letters.
And I have it in my online shop as well. I mean, if people, so that's if you're interested in, kind of learning about the tools and materials and how to do sign painting. But if maybe you're more interested in the history of it, then there's a really good book called Sign Written Art, which is by a guy called AJ Lurie or Tony Lurie. I've got that in my shop as well, but it's very much the British tradition. But there he goes back and looks at the history of the trade. So it depends what angle somebody's coming at it from. If they're interested in learning, just about sign painting and its history, then that's Sign Written Art. But if they're looking for practical how to paint signs, then this is the one. But I would always add to that, you're not going to learn it all from a book in reality. You are going to need to either go to a workshop or take an online course or, just spend some time with a sign painter, because it's hard to know if you're doing things right on your own. And it's very easy. I guess the same must apply for calligraphy. It's easy to develop bad habits on your own. And it's important to have that, ideally, face-to-face tuition and guidance from somebody who knows what they're doing.
So yeah, you mentioned a couple of times that you've been changing stuff that you're doing, but what's your background before you started with sign painting? Like, what were you doing? Is it something that helped you do the things that you're doing now, or like?
That's a difficult question. I went to university and I nearly failed my course there because I got really into the college radio station and ended up running the college radio station. And so I spent, instead of going to lectures, I was always at the studio or the office of the station. And it was through that part of my role there was selling advertising, which is one of the reasons I don't want to do it now. I don't enjoy selling advertising. And it was, so I came into contact with advertising agencies, and I thought that sounds all quite interesting and, kind of a bit creative. And so I then went and worked, not so much for agencies, but in the wider industry for a number of years, and various types of roles. But the thing that was common through all of them was managing projects, making things become real from an idea to delivering a final output. And in some cases that was online learning courses, in others it was publications. So there was a whole load of stuff that I produced. I sometimes just call myself a producer, because I think that's quite a good word to describe what I do, because what I produce can vary from events to publications, and producer actually sums that up quite nicely. Then I got married, and me and my wife, we went to Cambodia, where we lived for 2 years, and we volunteered there. So I was working for a non-government organization working on environmental issues in Cambodia. And there, my role, it wasn't so much managing projects. There was a bit of that, but it was much more about supporting the team at that organization to develop their own management skills and how to set things up for success. And then it was coming back from there, I was inspired by the people that I met in Cambodia, where so many people there were self-employed. We have a kind of a misconception, I think, in in countries like the UK and the US, that we're very entrepreneurial. Well, actually, most people just work jobs where they get paid by somebody else. Whereas when you go somewhere like Cambodia, where most people are genuinely self-employed and doing it for themselves, that sort of fired me up to go, well, I would like to do it for myself. And it was that led into this path that I've followed for 10 years now. I've been self-employed for 10 years, and it's hard. You're responsible for everything, but ultimately, I think it's much more satisfying than working for somebody else. And I enjoy the flexibility, the freedom to pursue new ideas and new projects. So I don't plan on changing that anytime soon.
Do you have some dreams or goals that you want to achieve with BLAG or with Better Letters in general? Like,
Well, with the magazine,
is there some 5 or 10 years plan or ideas? I don't know.
I mean, I guess for the last 18 months, it's just been a case of, can I get the next issue out? It's been like that. I would like to expand the magazine. I think, what I would love to do in the next 5 years, let's say, start to have things like special issues, where there's a very focused theme around the issue. I would love to do something like a yearbook, like a sign painting yearbook. So I've got a lot of publishing ideas. The other one I want to do, this ghost signs book is, I mean, it's about ghost signs in general, but all of the examples inside are from London and their stories. And I've talked to the publisher of that book about doing a global one and picking interesting locations around the world to have a chapter on, San Francisco, Winnipeg in Canada, Cairo in Egypt, and really pick Melbourne in Australia, pick amazing locations for these signs and have their local stories told in a global book. So yeah, a lot of my ambitions for the next few years are publishing related. And I would like to do more to nurture the community around the magazine itself. So at the moment, it feels like I have a lot of direct relationships with each subscriber, but I'm looking at ways outside of, say, Facebook and Instagram and so on, that there can be something that's more focused and private as a community that is built around the magazine. So I'm doing a lot of work planning for that, and I think that will add a lot of value to the people that subscribe. But no, I don't have some big, huge vision. But right now, let's get issue 4 with people by Christmas. That will be a happy end of the year to me.
One step at a time, Yeah, that's pretty cool. Is Mike Meyer the best sign painter, or he is the best that I know?
I'm not going to go on the record saying who's the best sign painter. There's different.
Look. Like, I mean, even if you say this is the best sign painter, this doesn't make him automatically. This is just your point of view. I want to know who is the best to you?
Listen, he's definitely one of the um, the most well-known sign painters in the world, and he's made a living at that for over 40 years, and he's one of the fastest I've ever seen. When you watch Mike work, he doesn't mess around. He gets it done and he gets it out the door. And I think the volume of his output. I would watch him at a workshop over 4 days, and in addition to teaching everybody, he would just have a production line of of pieces that he was producing in those 4 days as well. And he's just it's him. Like that's all he's ever wanted to do. That's all he's ever done, and that's probably all he will ever do. Is paint signs, and obviously now teaching people how to paint signs. I don't think you can say who is the best. There's you might say, okay, who no, you can't really.
Okay,
Uh,
give me your top 5 favorite living sign painters. Come on,
no,
that's
I'm
easy.
not. I mean, so, okay, so someone like Dave Smith. Okay, so Dave Smith is British.
Is he
Um,
considered a sign painter? Sign painter?
so this is it. So he was. That's the background he came out of was sign painting, but then has moved much more into high end decorative glass work, and so it's using a lot of those skills, but then there's a whole load of other skills and techniques that he brings um, into that work. And whereas a normal sign painter needs to make it commercial in terms of that I can't do loads and loads of fancy stuff because you can't afford it as a customer. If somebody needs their shop front done, yes, okay, you could go and put all these embellishments and amazing things on it, but they've got a budget, and your income is by time. So you've got to balance how much time you can spend on it versus how much they can afford to pay you for that time. So a lot of day-to-day commercial sign painters aren't doing that level of work, but Dave has moved himself into that space, and he spends months, even years, on individual projects, and has found a clientele that can pay for that. So yeah, whether you would, he probably, I don't think he does describe himself as a sign painter, but within the wider realm of the craft, he's definitely well known and highly sought after by clients and students.
3 more names. By the way, both Mike and Dave, I've spoken a couple of times to have them on the podcast. It's just we never can catch each other, but I'll keep trying. I'll get them on the podcast, guys. But yeah, give
I
me
mean,
some more names. 3 names, 3 names.
I mean, you've got people like Jeff Marshall in Australia, Joby Carter in the UK, John King in the US, Anne McDonald in New Zealand, Leanne Barker in Australia, and then so they're Ash Bishop in the UK. They're people that are kind of the more established generation. So they're the people that are teaching the people coming into it these days. But then you also have, I've started referring to it a bit as the new wave. So you had with sign painting a lot of people that were able to learn through trade schools and apprenticeships that were generally available up until about the 1990s, even early 2000s. But the shape of the industry really changed when the vinyl cutting machines came in. And so those opportunities were much harder to come by, and there was a lot less work. And so there was a bit of a hollowing out of the industry, and not that many people coming in and learning it fresh. So there's a bit of there's a kind of a gap, a generational gap in the trade. But then, as I say, come the late 2000s and then early 2010s, particularly with the sign painter movie, there's a whole new generation of people who are, let's say, in their 30s, maybe early 40s now, and who are doing, really, really exciting work. And you can find them all over the world. And I think, a lot of them have had to figure it out themselves. They haven't been able to go to a technical college. There is a place in Los Angeles, and a lot of people have come out of the Los Angeles teaching program. But most people have learned through a combination of attending workshops, shadowing or short-term apprenticeships, and then reading everything they can find and practicing. And I think that, it's positive. It's a good sign that there's this new cohort of people that are keeping it alive around the world.
I like a lot. Just listening to you came something to my mind. Rachel Joy. Before
Yeah, yeah. So she was
I
in the
love what she
magazine.
does. I love her work.
This is that page. There's some stuff from Rachel Joy. So
Yeah.
she was this. We had a whole piece in the last issue. There's a couple of pieces of her work. So we had a whole thing in the last issue with there was her, Ben Johnston, and Half Studio in Portugal, looking at kind of extreme dimensional letters. So I'm for people who are just listening, I'm showing some pages from issue 3 of the magazine. So yeah, she's doing, it mixes. There's a lot of her work is lettering commissions, but then she gets lots of opportunities to manifest that in murals and on-site installations. So yeah, she's doing some really nice work.
Also commercial work she does. Pretty cool stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. Now I'll give you 5 things, and I want you to number them from your favorite to your least favorite. Okay? No, it's easy. Come on. Graffiti, typography, calligraphy, lettering, and sign painting.
Sign painting, lettering, probably calligraphy, typography, graffiti.
So the other way that I told them. I think calligraphy is still 3. It's okay. I was gonna be unhappy if it was less than 3, but 3 it's fine.
It's in the top 3. Yeah, I mean, the thing is, you say that, but these are now, very much these days not easily separated in that way. So many people are working across those disciplines. Maybe not all of them, but
Yeah.
you have a lot of people that have come into sign painting from graffiti background. You have people that have gone from sign painting into more typography, or people, calligraphy is I guess quite a common thread through all of it, because that's the fundamentals of letters. And and then a lot of people these days have got graffiti either within their background or as something that they're still doing, although people are less open about their graffiti practice than they might be about their sign painting or lettering practice. But these days the boundaries between them are much more fluid, I think, and that's exciting to see, and how each one is influencing the others.
Yeah, that's definitely true. What's your favorite part about sign painting?
I mean, it's probably watching it. I find it almost, it's awesome. When people say awesome, I think just to mean good, but the original meaning of awesome is
Awesome.
inspiring awe, which is kind of like, awe is fear or amazement. And when I watch a sign painter working, the control that they're exerting over the brush and the way they can manipulate it to get it to do what they want to do, I find truly awesome. And I'm just happy to be a part of it and to be kind of welcomed and by the community and to serve it in the ways that I do.
If you can recommend or give an advice, one thing that you can say to people who are into or maybe thinking to go into sign painting, what would you tell them?
It's you've got to be really, really committed, in terms of just putting in the hours of practice. And I'm sure the exact same is true of calligraphy. You're not going to figure this out at a weekend workshop. You're going to have to put in the hours and accept that you're no good at it for a long time until you can start to turn out something that is half decent. So I think, yeah, it's that mixture of patience and dedication that is going to make the difference between whether you make it or not.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Sam, for being a guest on the podcast. I was happy to record this again. I think it turned better than last time. It's just a feeling like this. Maybe it's just because also there were two more magazines out. But yeah, guys, if you're not following already Better Letters, there will be links in the description. I'll put link to his website. Go check BLAG magazine. Go to bl.ag/cm20 for $20 off the description, the subscription for the magazine. And thank you for watching.
And the only thing I'll add is I also have a free email list, so anyone can sign up. And what I do every week, I'm publishing a new article on the website, and that's going out to the email list. So keep an eye on the email list. And I also do a load of my online events that are completely free as well. So there's if people don't have a budget to subscribe, then there's a whole load of stuff that I'm putting out that doesn't cost anything. So don't let the money side stop you from becoming a part of what I'm doing with BLAG.
What are those free events? Are they online or what?
Yeah, so they're online. So we've had what have we had so far? We had Right Way Signs in Chicago. They were talking about these enormous signs that they do on the roofs of buildings. We've had Carla Hackett and Barbara Enright were doing a brush lettering kind of show card style demonstration. I had Leanne Barker from Australia, more just talking about her life on the brush in Australia. She's been doing it for 40 years. And we actually went into talking about what it was like being a woman sign painter, and it's a different experience being a woman. Lots of things that maybe men don't experience in terms of sexism and attitudes of customers and things. And then I've also done demonstrations. I had Peter Schneider. So then the demonstrations, sometimes they're paid for. So we just had one on single stroke lettering with Kenji Nakayama in Boston. We had one on shadowing with Peter Schneider in Netherlands. So it's only just started the event, and every issue of the magazine now, I'm going to do a kind of a big 6-hour event where you can hear from people in the magazine. So if you go to the page that is all about issue 3 of the magazine, there's, I think, 9 recordings on there that you can watch, including a whole talk about Ross F. George. You know the guy Ross F. George who did the Speedball pens and the Speedball books. So there's a whole collection of his work and his archive in San Francisco. And Stephen and Kel over there did a whole talk about, showing the nibs that he was doing as prototypes before making these pens, and some of the show card work that he did. So yeah, there's a whole load of recordings and things that I've got available on the website. The next event are going to be coming up in sort of January, February time. I'm just scheduling those. I'm not ready to announce what they'll be, but yeah, most of those are going to be free and online.
I will attend some of them in that case.
Definitely.
That would be pretty awesome. Maybe you should make a sign painters podcast.
I was thinking about it, you know. I think there needs to be that, you know, there's Sean started one for a long time. He did the Coffee with a Sign Painter podcast, so that ran for a long time. But yeah, I feel that there's scope to do it. I need to get the equipment and kind of make it happen.
That'd be awesome.
I need your tips. You'll have to give me some tips on how you do it.
Uh, you know, I'm not a journalist or like I'm not a professional in anything. I'm just passionate about calligraphy, lettering, and sign painters, like in sign painting. And usually on the podcast, as you see, I'm just interested to hear the story of the people, like what was their background, like how they came to the point that they are. And I think this is pretty useful, like because when I was total beginner, those were all the things that I was wondering about those people, and basically what back then I was wondering, I'm now asking the people because I hope that this will help other beginners or something like this. I have a bunch of questions which usually I ask people, but often like just by the stories that I hear, you know, some stuff pops up in my mind, but uh, I'm not a professional at all. It's just me having conversations with people, nothing too special, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, well, it's good. It's good. It keeps it relaxed, and you know, it's always nice. I always like doing these things because they make me stop for a moment and think and reflect. You know, it's easy every day to just, okay, today I got to do this, I got to get this done, move on to the next thing, right? But you know, having something like this is a bit of a space where you can just it's even some of it's just thinking aloud, but you know, and then it gives me ideas, and I'll feel energized after this to actually go and do some more research and planning for a possible sign painter podcast.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Like, man, I'll be so happy if you make a podcast now. This will be super cool. Okay, so
Okay.
Sam, thank you for being guest on the podcast again. I would love to have you again on the podcast if there is something interesting that we can speak for people. Like, if anything comes up, feel free to reach out.
I will, and no, I look forward to sharing details once you publish.
Yes. So thank you guys for watching. Thank you for listening. If you're new to the channel, subscribe, hit the like button, drop a comment. What was your most interesting moment from this podcast? Drop your top 5 favorite sign painters. Drop if you're a beginner, if you're interested, whatever. Just you know the drill. If you're listening the podcast, I don't know, follow, subscribe, whatever. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. And as always, keep writing. Yeah.
Thank you.